Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love having our guest speakers come on. Part of our signature speaker series, we're honored to have with us Sterling Hawkins. He's the author of Hunting Discomfort, How to Get Breakthrough Results in Life and Business No Matter What. And he's the CEO and founder of the Sterling Hawkins Group. How are you doing, Sterling?
Jeremy, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to our conversation here today.
Absolutely. So your world, Hunting Discomfort, and then the hashtag, which for those who are seeing you on video behind you, no matter what. So you're putting out a ton of helpful and inspirational content all over social media and obviously through the book. We'll talk about the book in just a second, but let's start with you as an entrepreneur. Give us a little bit of your backstory that will lead us into the book and you as a public speaker and so much more.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think the feedback I get most about talking about hunting discomfort these days, more than any time before, is Sterling, you got to look at my business, my relationships, my bank account. I don't need to hunt discomfort. I'm surrounded by it. And my answer is always the same, which is, well, that means you're living with it, probably not hunting it, because when you're hunting discomfort, you are forever free of it, not circumstantially free, but free, period. And that was something that I didn't really understand or didn't understand at all early in my career. And I got admittedly a little bit lucky. I grew up a fifth generation retailer in my family supermarket in upstate New York. I founded a company with my dad right out of college. And very quickly, we sold it to a group in Silicon Valley where it became the Apple Pay before Apple Pay. It worked just like Apple Pay, except it was a little fingerprint sensor set next to the credit card terminal. You put your finger down, credit cards come up, loyalty cards, really simple and really innovative. And this is early 2000s. And I end up living this like dream of a life for a little while where we raise over $550 million, multi-billion-dollar valuation, offices all over the world, over 700 team members. And I don't know, have you seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street? It was like a scene out of that movie. Models in the office, parties at the Four Seasons, the rest I'll leave to your imagination. And I just knew it was a matter of time until we go public. I'd cash in and crown myself the next Steve Jobs. But we grew too quickly. We didn't spend our money in ways, looking back on it, I would have spent it. And when the housing market collapsed, the entire thing went bankrupt. Not only did the company collapse, but so did I. And that was really the beginning of my career.
So when you look at then taking that experience to now investing in, is it over 50 companies? I mean, so now being able to build,
investing,
and obviously having your own. Yeah. So give us a little bit of a teaser of where you are in this moment.
Yeah. Well, so it was a lot of what I learned in that dark moment. I ended up playing out a sad country song of a story, going from the literally penthouse apartment in downtown San Francisco to my parents' house, 6 figures of personal debt. And it was so bad, even my girlfriend broke up with me. Like I was hitting every single beat of that song. And it was at that low point that I really looked at my life and my circumstances and understood discomfort as something that I was avoiding, denying, or just surviving and trying to get through. And that was a moment that started me going after some of the things that scared me most. Public speaking was high on the list, marathons, ultra marathons, skydiving, diving with sharks. And I realized discomfort's not something to survive, avoid, or deny. It is literally the pathway to breakthrough results. And built on some of my own experience and now about a decade of research and working with some of the biggest companies in the world, we've built a system around how to use discomfort as an individual and as a company to create breakthrough results, no matter what circumstances they're dealing with.
So let's carry that into the book, because obviously I think that starts to paint the picture of why you wrote the book. And I do love the fact that you point out, there's one thing of living with discomfort, and it's another to actually go and hunt discomfort, which creates a mindset. And I think there's a lot to this. So what led you to write the book? Let's start there, and then we'll kind of dive into the book.
So funny enough, I noticed it was discomfort that I was avoiding. So people have been telling me for years to write a book. And then when the pandemic struck, I was no longer on stages or running workshops or anything else, and I had time on my hands. I realized, wait a minute, you've been using quote unquote busy to avoid this discomfort of writing a book. And that's actually when I found a publisher, signed an agreement as fast as I possibly could before that self-doubt stopped me, and thus commenced the process. And it just came out this past June 2022.
Give us a little bit of the lessons. I mean, obviously, we want people to buy the book, so you don't have to give away all the secrets, but walk us through a little bit of the book.
Well, I'm happy to share anything and everything. And the core of it is that what's between you, where you are right now listening to this, and the results you want is not more money, not just hard work, not determination and grit, not the right connections. It is discomfort in some shape or form. And there are 5 major discomforts that stop all of us. One rises to the top, like one is probably standing in your way. And so what the book does is unpack what those discomforts are. First is how you're looking at your reality of yourself, others around you in the world. The second is self-doubt. Third is fear of exposure, people seeing you for who you really are. Fourth is challenges. And fifth is what I think of as like the discomfort that rules them all, the discomfort of the unknown. And as you can come to terms with each one of those 5 things, new results will inevitably arise. It works for every person, every company I've ever worked with.
When you look at the book, I think it's perfect, obviously, for individuals, but when you talk about it as a team, as an organization, I think there's a perfect applicability there as well, correct?
Yeah, a company can only grow as much as its leaders are willing to grow. And as just about every leadership or growth book will tell you, you grow from going through discomfort, stepping out of your comfort zone. And when you take that on as an individual, you'll start to see not only growth in yourself, but you'll inspire growth of those around you. In the companies that I work with, it's really about them taking on the no matter what system, them hunting discomfort for themselves and bringing it into their organizational culture to build a culture that's growth oriented, that's not dependent on supply chains falling apart or inflation or dealing with the economy or anything else. They're growth oriented and can deal with anything that shows up at their doorstep because they've built the capacity to deal with discomfort, and maybe more importantly, or just as important, an ability to move through it together. And that's what it's about as a team.
Let's take one of them and dive in a little bit deeper. Expanding reality. Yeah. I think, a lot of us, you kind of see the picture, based on your experiences and such, but it's like, how do you expand reality? Give us a little bit of, some of your favorite tips around that.
Yeah. Well, my biggest learning was that we see reality through our lenses of belief. And our lenses of belief kind of work like glasses. I'm not wearing them now. I'm wearing contacts. But when I'm wearing glasses, they're like this thick. They're like Coke bottles. And like beliefs, when I put my glasses on, it changes what I see. I put them on, I see for the better. If you were to put on my glasses, Jeremy, you would see far worse, right? It's just a different prescription. Works like beliefs, right? You take on a different belief, you see the world, you see the possibility, you see the challenges in it in a different way. But on a regular basis, once a year, as I'm sure you do as well, I go to the eye doctor and they reevaluate my prescription. Well, that's easy enough to do, and they might tweak it a little bit, but not very often are many of us sitting back and reflecting on the beliefs that we have about ourselves, others, and the world. And when we shift those beliefs, it's naturally going to cause us to take new actions, and new results will just very naturally arise from that. What I see, especially early in a new year, oftentimes is people all about determination and grit and having accountability. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for that. You need all of that stuff. But when you're just being determined and you're just using accountability and having some structure that you're forcing yourself through, it's not very sustainable over time. There's a reason you're doing the things that you're doing. There's a reason you're not getting out of bed and going to the gym. There's a reason you have a difficulty in these presentations, or you're not closing as many sales as you like. And when you get to the core of that belief, you can actually swap out that lens for a better one, giving you naturally new results. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How did the process of writing the book expand your reality? How did it change your perspective?
Yeah. So I realized I had a lot of blind spots. I've been working with people and companies in some capacity around this stuff for a decade, but I would get into the book and I would look at it from a research standpoint and say, well, wait a minute. Like, I know this to be true. It's my experience to be true, but let me see if I can find some research that proves it out. A good example of that is I knew from my own experience working with companies that discomfort is in your way of things. Great. But I ended up, as part of the book writing process, finding some research, Norwegian research, that found that discomfort defaults or ineffective ways of dealing with discomfort leaves you not unwilling, but unable to act in accordance with the knowledge that you already have. That means you know what to do, but discomfort stops you. And understanding that is a blind spot that I have, and now being able to fill those with appropriate research. And that's just one example of many. I think not only made for a really great book, if I can pat myself on the back for a minute, but also rounded out my knowledge of the subject. It was a incredible, uncomfortable, and really a growth experience for myself that I got a ton out of.
What's the saying is, if you want to learn a subject, teach it.
Right.
So if
right.
you want us to dive in even deeper.
Well, I think they should say, if you want to know about a subject, you should write it, because just teaching it wasn't enough. It was going through very meticulously with a whole lot of help, by the way. I had all sorts of teams of people helping me put this book together. I couldn't have done it on my own. But going through and looking at every single thing with a critical lens of, well, what about this and what about that, inevitably made me not just more knowledgeable, but connecting me deeper to the message that I have and how I'm bringing it to fruition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What does the hashtag no matter what? Talk about that. What does that mean? And how does that tie in, especially on social media for you?
Yeah, well, it didn't start out as a hashtag. It wasn't on social media. There weren't people wearing no matter what shirts all over the world. It frankly started out as a personal mantra when I was living at my parents' house, just to get me out of bed in the morning. I'm going to get out of bed tomorrow, no matter what. I'm going to go to the gym, no matter what. I'm going to call my creditors, no matter what. And what I realized is that it was committing and following through no matter what that gave me that capacity to move through discomfort. My commitments just had to be bigger than whatever the discomfort I was dealing with. And what started as me going through some pretty major discomforts translated into my sister going after an eating disorder and becoming a championship bodybuilder. She's been closest with me on this journey I've been on. I still wouldn't be doing it without her. She does all our PR and operations and marketing. And then it was a little bit of a ripple effect to some of our friends, and then their friends, and then their friends. And all of a sudden, I realized that this wasn't just a system to dig myself out of a hole. There was a community of people coming together that were declaring goals big and small and hunting the discomfort necessary to achieve them, no matter what. And that's kind of when we formalized the whole thing and said, okay, there's a system, there's a process, there's a structure, there's a community to this thing. It's the hashtag no matter what.
Absolutely. You have a quiz on your website. You have resources on your website. You have a lot of information. Yeah. Obviously, that's where we can go to buy the book. So talk about this quiz and opportunities to carry these conversations forward.
Yeah, well, like we were talking about, what's in your way is not just hard work or more money or more determination or the right connections. It is discomfort. And orienting to which one of the 5 major discomforts is in your way takes a little bit of work, because we've spent a career and in a lot of cases, a lifetime avoiding that discomfort, steering away from it. So this quiz does 2 things. It's a 15 quick questions, doesn't cost anything, to illuminate what that major discomfort is that's standing in your way. And just as important, gives you steps forward for what to do about it. And you can find all of that at sterlinghawkins.com.
Give us some words of encouragement. We're still early on in 2023. So when you talk about switching the mindset of living with discomfort to hunting discomfort, being able to thrive, give us some words of encouragement.
Yeah. So my mom had a lot of sayings when I was a kid. She still does, by the way. But the thing that came back to me during some of the hardest points in my life was the way out is through. It's actually Robert Frost, but to me, I always remember it as my mom. And it means you've got to go through the hard things, the things you're embarrassed about, things you're fearful of, and what you're looking for is on the other side. And through going through some of the things that scared me most in life, the things that I was most ashamed of and embarrassed about, I realized that my mom was right. The way out is through, not just for me, but for all of us. We just have to be willing to go through no matter what.
I love it. We'll wrap up again, mention the website. Where do we go to follow you and your efforts and to buy the book?
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, this has been a blast. You can find everything at sterlinghawkins.com. You can take the quiz, buy the book, learn about some of the other resources and tools we offer. And certainly if I can be of help to anybody, feel free to reach out to me with a DM or an email. I'm here to support.
Well, Sterling, thank you for all you do. You are a change maker, and I follow you myself, and thank you for putting out all the inspiration. So thank you for all you do and for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's been a pleasure.